Welcome everyone back to the studio. I am Eric C. Jackson. Today I'm just going to go over retouching for one self-portrait in particular that I'm working on. I finished one already, but I felt like it would be useful to you guys if I go over the process that I'm going through and show you guys the guide that I'm following for these. Now, every year I like to make new self-portraits for the About page, contact page, social media profiles, things like that. So, yeah, this year I'm gonna try to come up with some new ideas or new backgrounds, things like that. But for the most part, I'm gonna use the same editing guide that I used from last year, and I'm gonna show you guys which guide I'm using. It's on YouTube. Okay, so this is from, let me pronounce his name right, Artifact Havits. But this is the guide, and it's not even 10 minutes long. So it's very much to the point, and it's like when you're editing skin, you really have to think about the tone, the skin tone. So darker skin tones and lighter skin tones, you don't edit them the same. There are some similarities, obviously, but darker skin tones, you can have more light on them because they are darker. And lighter skin tones, too much light, you're gonna blow out the skin tone. So you would treat those differently. So this is the guide that I'm gonna go off of. I wrote all these steps out in my notes app so that I don't have to kind of have both of these on the screen. But yeah, this is what I'm gonna go after or mimic again. So there's quite a few steps. This guide is 3 years old, but it's still the best one that I could find. So these are my potentials. I highlighted them in blue. And then this is, let me see where I'm at here. This is one I really like. So that's what I started with. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so this is the one. 54, 51. Let me go to film strip so you guys can see this a little better. But yeah, that's the raw file. You do some basic editing in terms of lighting, white balance. If you want to change the color profile, you can do that. But and then ultimately I ended up with that's the finish. Let me label these correctly. So that's yellow. This is the Photoshop file, so it's going to be purple. And then I have another one. That's a small file. That's going to be yellow. This one also yellow. So the only files that are blue, that are labeled blue, are the raw files. Like all of my JPEGs, small files, they're yellow. And then the Photoshop file is purple. So like I said before, I've been using this labeling system for years now, since 2008. So it just helps me keep everything organized. All right. So that one I did. I want to see what I can get from this. It might be a little bit skewed with the lens profile. I'm not sure, but let me see. So first thing I'm going to do is open this up in Camera Raw. I did change the color temperature to 4500, no tint or anything extra. The lighting actually looks pretty good. Exposure, that type thing. Now, if it's not great, I can always come back here and change it or adjust it. Maybe a little bit more light. Let me see, highlights. Yeah, my highlights can go up. Yeah, because I want the background to be white as much as possible. And then the whites, I'm going to go too high. That's fine. Like I said, color is already there. Now your color profile is up here. Adobe Portrait. It's a little bit flat. Standard. Okay, so the default profile was Adobe Color. Let me see if I can move my my camera for right now. All right, so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay. So in terms of color, if you go as shot, excuse me, that's a little bit too saturated. So, and then if you want to change your white balance, here's your eyedrop tool. And then you would just click in here wherever it's supposed to be pure white. You would just click wherever in the photo, and it'll change, and then you can adjust it accordingly. So, and then effects, I really don't want to add texture, clarity, or anything. Dehaze might be a little interesting. And no, because it darkens it too much. Yeah, so I'm definitely not going to add grain. Detail, I'm not going to mess with the noise right now, because I'm going to use the Gaussian blur anyway to soften up the skin tone. And then there's the optics, remove chromatic aberration, and then there's the lens correction. Yeah, so like always, I use my 24 to 105 millimeter lens. I think that's all I want to do here. Then they've got some added stuff in here that's new. Oh, you can blur the background. That's interesting. Create lens blur. Like if you miss a shot like your depth of field is off, that would be nice to use. But normally I want the photograph to look as natural as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and open this as a smart object in Photoshop. And because you open it as a smart object, you can go back in the Camera Raw, make any necessary adjustments that you might have missed or you want to add, and then you can pull it back into Photoshop. So we're going to be going through that part as we go here. Let me see if I can, do I want to do this from my phone or my tablet? Just want to pull up my Notes app. Yeah, because I've got all the steps here, but let's see if I can do this half and half or just split my screen. I don't know if I have enough space on this monitor. Let's see, this can go in. This can come over. Okay, this should work all right. And where do I want to put my camera so you guys can see? Okay, this is pretty, you know what, let me swap these around. I'm gonna put you here and you over here. Okay. And then put my camera back. All right. It's about as close as I can get it to this point. All right. So we are, like I said, we brought it out of Camera Raw. This is already a smart object, which is the little icon that you see over the small thumbnail. So first things first, make a copy of the layer. So drag it down over the layer icon. There's a copy of it. And we're going to go filter, convert to smart filters, which I think it already is. Yeah, it's already a smart filter. All right, image adjustments invert. So image up here in the nav bar, adjustments invert. So we are on the copy layer. I know it looks really weird right now. Okay, so now we got to go to the layers panel, which I'm on. And we're going to change the drop down to vivid light. So there's a bunch of stuff here. Okay, vivid light. Okay, and so now we're going to add a high pass, which is really important. So we're going to go back to filter, down to other, and here is high pass. My settings from the first portrait I did are still here. So I've got 20.8 for the radius, and the preview's already on. Click OK. Next, we've got filter again, come down to blur, and then there's Gaussian blur. This is gonna be 3.7. Okay. And of course, you can adjust this depending on what you're working on. And since this is a smart object, your photo is a smart object, and we're using smart filters, you can adjust these as much as you want. You can turn the adjustments on and off completely. So it's really flexible in terms of editing. So you don't have to be afraid that you're going to mess something up in the photograph, So click OK with that. Okay, so we're still on the photocopy. We're going to create a mask, which there's the mask icon down here, layer mask. So click that, and it's that little white, I guess it's like a rectangle, but the height, it's like a box. Okay, so we're gonna go to image, adjustments, and invert, but this time we're gonna be on the mask. We're not gonna be, so you have to select the mask and not the actual photo. So you come up here, image, adjustments, invert, which is gonna turn the mask black, right? So that's on, which is white, and then turn it off, which is black, right? So that means that on your mask, when you turn your mask black, that shuts off everything. And you're able to paint the adjustments on with a brush. So the next step would be the brush tool. And there's different brushes up here. The shortcut for the brush tool is the letter B. So there's my brush tool. You can make the brush tool larger or smaller with your bracket keys. Right, so you don't have to come up here in the menu and change the brush size. But the brush I'm looking for, the one that the guide used, is a soft found. And I don't know if it's still in here like that. Soft. Or was it round? Soft round. Yeah, that's probably what it is. That one, that's the brush type. So your hardness is at 0. You don't want the edges to be hard at all. And then the size can vary depending on what you're working on, the brush size. But then you have to make sure that your brush color is on white, because if your brush color is on black, that means that you're going to be erasing not the photograph, but the layer effects. So your color swatch down there, make sure it's on white. The white swatch is on top. So I'm going to come in here a little bit, probably make the brush a little bit smaller. Hold down the space bar to bring up the hand tool so I can move this around. Or, you know what? I can move it with gestures on my trackpad. So now I'm just going to paint on the blur. Okay, and also just remember too that your opacity is going to be 100, which is up here. And I know this is going to look, hold on, this is going to look really heavy. Now, if you mess up something, just Control or Command Z, like just to back up one space, and then to move forward one step, you Command Shift Z. So Command Control Z to go back, Command Control Shift Z to go forward. So a lot of times when you're painting skin, so to speak, you're just going back and forth. And then if you want to, like you're using the white color swatch to paint on the effects, if you want to paint them off, you just press the letter X, which turns your paintbrush to black, and then you can start painting things off. Right? And then press X again to switch it back to white. You can start painting them on. So as you get used to your shortcuts, it just makes this process a lot faster. Instead of having to drag your mouse all the way over here every time you want to swap between these two. So, shortcut. Let me come in a little bit more. Make this smaller with the brackets. And try not to get too much in my hair. Because the problem with the Gaussian blur, anytime you start touching something that's black, it's going to turn it into a heavy shadow. So you have to be careful with just trying to stay on the skin. Yeah, I can see how dark that's getting. You don't want it to look too weird. Careful not to paint my glasses. And make the brush a little bit bigger until I get into some other areas here and come out a little bit more. Yeah, it's really like you're putting makeup on. I'm sorry, gentlemen. It's just what it is. And then you just want to control how much makeup you apply. Of course, with women, you can apply more. And with men, you don't want it to be too heavy. Because it'll definitely look awkward. But we're going to go ahead and adjust this. Because you don't want to look like you've painted over this. Let's soften it a little bit. All right. So let me come in a little bit closer. Bring this down. Yeah, there's so many spots and whatnot on my skin. Pores. So you're just smoothing out everything. And come in here a little bit smaller. Try not to mess that up. Again, like I said, just stay on the skin. Don't get too close to the edge. There we go. And obviously you don't want to soften up everything because you want to have some texture left in the photograph. Because if you soften everything, it's going to look fake for sure. All right. So now we're going to go back to this here in the corner, the Gaussian blur layer. You just double click it to open it up again. Let's see, it says on the guide 6.8. Okay, what if we go up? Okay, it takes it away the higher you go. All right. So now you can really look at how much blur you want. So the 6.8 is not really like a in stone type of rule. It just depends on how soft do you want the skin to be. So the lower the number is, the more blur you're going to have. Oh, gosh, let me try 11. No, wait, let me go up. 13. Let's go with, and I know I'm being a little bit, 12.5. Let's see if I want to stay with that. Because see how heavy that is? That's way too heavy. You have some texture come through. And then you can, like I said, you can go back and adjust it as much as you want. Get a little bit more. 12.5. 14. Let's go down. Go down a couple points. Yeah, I'm trying to balance it out, the texture with the smoothness. I think 11's pretty good. 12, 11. Yeah, I like 11 for this one. All right. So yeah, I softened it up a little bit more. So far, so good. All right, so now we got the part that I really have trouble with, but we're going to add curves to this. More times than not, I use levels, the levels adjustment, but so we're going to lower the shadows. Raise the highlights. And I don't want to mess this one up. A little bit more dimension to it. Yeah. All right. And then we go, so now we're on the curves layer. So stay on the curves layer down here. We're going to go to the drop down menu and change this to luminosity. So instead of normal, because the normal is the default, you like change it all the way to the bottom as luminosity. There we go. And that's on the curves layer. And let me see. Image adjustments, invert on the curves layer. So now the mask is going to go from white to black. So I turned off the lighting that I had before. So now you want to paint it wherever you want that extra light to be. So I'm not going to zoom in as much because I want to see what this does. Back on my brush, we're on the curves mask. Color swatches on white. We're going to turn on some highlight. Probably down here on my eyes. Really come in here a little bit more. So instead of lighting up everything like a blanket highlight, you would basically just paint in where you want the highlight to be. Okay, is that going to be too much? Yeah, it is. It's going to be too much. All right, so I think that's fine. Yep, I think that's fine. And of course, I added highlight over my eyes so that they would stand out more. the next one. Okay, so we are right here. We've got to go all the way down to the bottom. So we're getting to the halfway point of all this. Levels layer highlights 240, midtones 0.58. Okay. So we're coming down here. We're going levels. We're going to bring the whites down to 240. Bring the midtones down to 0.58. Okay. And we're going to go back to the drop down menu instead of normal. Luminosity. Okay, so for this one, we're going to go back to the brush tool or stay on the brush tool. We're going to go image adjustments, invert on the levels mask. Image adjustments, invert, which changes it to black. And then, of course, we're going to paint this on, but we're going to take the opacity down to 17%. So your opacity is up here near the navigation bar, 17%. So we're painting it on. This is going to darken everything, so you don't want to go too dark. Yeah, it looks kind of well, what I'm doing with this step is just creating more like a 3-dimensional shape with my face. Because, I'm so close to the camera that you don't want everything to look flat. So that's good. I think that's actually okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. Now, make sure on this part, if you guys are following me on this, that you don't make sure that you have everything the way that you want it to be, especially your filters. So if you come down here, your smart filters, you got your Gaussian blur, the high pass filter. Make sure all of that is correct, because what we're going to do at this point is make a flattened copy of this image, which means that you can't go back and change the Gaussian blur, the high pass anymore, right? For this point, you're going to flatten all of that out to be on one layer. And then we're going to take this into Camera Raw and add some more adjustments as far as color grading and all that goes. So make sure that all that is correct. And then you're going to, while you're still on the levels layer, it's a combination of Control or Command, Alt, Shift, and the letter E. And I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're on PC, it's Control, Alt, Shift, E. If you're on Apple or Mac, you would press Command, Alt, Shift, the letter E, right? So for me, I'm on Mac. I think for me, it's going to be Command Option. That always confuses me because I do have a Control button, but it's not Control on Apple. So I'm going to go Control Option Shift E, and I think that's the way you do it. Yep. So let me change my notes on that point because that'll be confusing for me. So on PC, Control Alt Shift E, and then on Mac, it would be Command Option Shift E. Yeah, so for me it's Command Option Shift E. And so what that did is it created another layer down here. It merged all of the filters and everything together into one layer, right? So if you end up messing up on this particular layer that's got everything merged together, you can just delete it and go back here and do it again because you still have everything down here. It's not going to delete any of that, but this is what we're going to be working on. So after that, we're going to go filter up here in the navigation bar and convert for smart filters. There we go. And then we're going to come back up to filter and go camera raw filter. All right, so we're back in camera raw. Let me go ahead and move my camera over. Okay. So you guys can see what I'm doing. All right. And what's the next thing here? Hold on, I'm gonna have to get this off my phone so I can see what this is. All right, so now lighting. If we follow the guide verbatim, the exposure goes up to 0.05. The highlights go down to -15. Shadows +27. Whites 48. And the blacks 50. So obviously for my photograph, this is too much. So I'm going to Control Z out of all that. So basically you would just work on the lighting. Obviously the exposure is going to brighten everything, which I don't want to do that. Contrast I really don't mess with. Highlights, I'm stuck on the slider. Hold on. I hate when it does this. There we go. Sometimes it gets stuck on the slider and I can't get it off. All right, so do I want it flat white in the background? I mean, I can go that far, but I don't think that's what I want to do. Let me back out a little bit so I can see what it's doing. So, yeah, there's a gradient in here, which kind of bugs me. Yeah, I'm gonna go 0. I think 0 is fine. Shadows. I go shadows. Nope. Somewhere in there. Okay. White. There we go. So can I move my highlights down, or is that... Yeah, it's going to be too much. All right. Okay, blacks. Up to 100 takes all the blacks away mostly. Like they're very light. Minus 100, way too dark. All right, so can I bring... So now that the blacks are minus 30, can I bring my whites up? Or do I want to bring up the highlight? Yeah, I'm just going back and forth to see what's working or what's not working. Probably not 100 on highlight. Go 63. I think that's fine. Yeah, the whites are fine. They're at 55. Okay. So that's lighting. So if I turn this off, I believe I can turn it off right here. That's where I started. That's where I finished. Yeah, I mean, it's much better, really. Okay, so the next thing... We are back to the curves, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna do anything with this. Okay, so toggle. It's off. It's on. Off. On. Very nice. It's tricky though. You have to be very careful. You do have numbers down here, highlights, lights, dark, shadows, but it's very like, if you go too much in a certain direction, you can mess it up pretty badly. Okay, so that's curves. We are gonna go now to the details panel. Detail. So on the guide, they raise the sharpening to 16, the noise reduction to 6, which is not a lot. Okay, so turn off, on. I probably want to soften it a little bit more. Yeah, it's too much. Because then it starts affecting the glasses, and I want those to stay really sharp. Do we have anything for color noise? No. No. So if you wanna, if you see color noise, or you feel like it's something you need to address, yeah. See, for me, I feel like off, on. Okay. Okay, so that's detail. So now, color mixer, which I'm not. Oh, here it is up here. Obviously, it depends on your photograph, but saturation tab. So, and then we've got color here. So your saturation's here. I don't think the adjustments are going to work on mine, because the red is supposed to be +9, but I've already got too much red in mine. So if anything, I'll probably let that one go, or take a little bit away, because it's already saturated in that red with the shirt that I have on. And then the next thing, orange +3, yellow -42, green +21, aqua +10, blue +7. Okay, so let me do this instead. That goes back to 0. Okay, so I'm on red. I was on the right one. Now I'm on orange. Let's see, let's see what this does. Too much, too little. There's a lot of orange, like a lot. So it's a lot of orange. Yeah, I'll take a little bit away because I don't want it to look unnatural, but I don't want it to look overly saturated either. Yeah, so I'm going to go with -6 on orange. Yellow, if you move the saturation slider, there's not a lot of yellow, but there's some in there. Yeah, I'll take some of the yellow out. And then the green. That's 100. And see my beard. The bottom of my beard has turned green. So there's some green in here. I don't want to take all of it out. I'm going to take some out. Yeah, because it's showing too much. All right. Next we've got aqua. Let's see how much aqua we have in there. It's a little, very minute. Here's a little bit. So +10. Then we got blue. So here's the blue. You gotta be careful with the blue. Now obviously the blue is a cooler color, so since I've got so much red in this photograph, you can add blue to it to cool it down. And then there is the luminance on orange. Holy smokes. That's a lot. So the directions have +22. That might be too high for me. Or it might be just right. I don't know. Hold on. Off. On. Yeah. The +22 luminance on orange. Well, for my skin tone, that definitely works for real. I like that. Okay, so that's all for the color mixer. So this is off. And this is on. It's like a glowing effect to it with the luminance and the orange. But then, again, you have to figure out what skin tone you have in the portrait. So you would just move the layers or levelings, move these adjustments here and see what comes up. So I would kick it all the way up to 100. And if there's a huge effect to it, that means that the majority of the color in that skin tone is what that is. So you can change it to any one of these really. But for me, like I said, it's going to be orange. I got a lot of orange I suppose in my skin tone. Hold on, let me pull this up again. Okay, so the last panel, or not quite the last panel, we're almost done. Color grading, which I'm not used to using, but now this one confused me the first time I used it. But we've got shadows down here, highlights, and then midtones up here at the top. So there are numbers for these. I'm still learning how this part works. Excuse me. So you guys down in the comments, if you guys have more experience with the color grading, because here's the shadow, mid-tone, highlight. Okay, you can single these out. Okay, so let me just follow that. So now I'm on shadows, or if you want to move all three at the same time, there's that. What's this one? Global. Oh, okay. I'm not going to mess with it though. Not when I'm almost finished. So let's see, the hue, I think is the dot in the middle. And then the saturation is supposed to be 11. The luminance stays at 0. So let me see if this is the hue. Okay, 150. And then the saturation is supposed to be 11. 11. Okay. Luminance stays at 0. And this is shadows. So if I turn that off. Oh, okay. It took a lot of the red out. Yeah, some of that orange reddish color in my skin, it took it out. It made it more neutral. Nice, nice. Let's see. And then the highlights. So the midtones are going to stay put. Highlights, we've got the hue is 70, saturation 11, luminance stays at 0. So let's see. Click on this button here in the middle. Can you move this out here? Yes, you can. So just go 70. And then this dot, go 11. There we go. Off, on. Man, that is crazy. It's making my skin tone more neutral, like an earthy brown type color. I like it. Okay, so that's the color grading. Now the last one we have is a calibration panel. So that was the color grading. I understand it a little bit more there. So with the shadows, it's a little bit more green, right? And then with the highlights, it's a little bit of yellow, but for some reason it still took some of the yellow out. Yeah, because see, without how red it gets, yeah, so it added kind of uh, it took some of the red out, and then you end up with that greenish yellow kind of tone down here. So I'm like, okay. And then that red, you can still see some of it up here. But now it blends a little bit more. So now overall it comes across as this more of an earthy brown color, which I definitely want to have for my skin tone. So, like I said, the last thing is calibration panel. And what do we got going on here? For red primary, very slight adjustments on these three. So here's my red primary right here. Hue is going to stay on 0. Saturation is only going to come up 2 points. So saturation on 2. So that's going to cancel out some of that greenish yellow that I just added from the color grading. And then we got green primary, which is the next one. Saturation is going to come up to 3. So not that much. Okay. And in the blue, saturation is going to come up to 7. Okay. So if I turn it off, on, yeah, it put more color back into it overall. And then the blue is up so high because you don't want the color to be so warm. You don't want to overdo it with the red. So you're just balancing it out with the blue, a little bit of the green. But then you don't want the red to look dull, so you add 2 points of that. So now I can understand what the editor was doing in the guide with everything. So yeah, that's the last thing. You come down here to the corner and click OK. So all your changes are saved. And there you go. Wow. I am thrilled. I'm thrilled. Should I crop this or leave it as is? Because I'm thinking that some of the white on the top is too much. I don't know. But anyway, so this is the before. And this is after we flattened all the adjustments in Photoshop. And then when we took it into Camera Raw for the second time, that's how it came out. I absolutely love it. I'm just wondering again, like, is this space up here, like, is it too much white? Cause maybe see that space here between my forehead and the edge. If I can make that even, maybe that'll look better. I'm not sure. I'm just probably, let's go 18. And I don't want to delete the pixels because I might be wrong with this. So delete crop pixels, you can turn it off if you don't want to delete the cropped, what's getting cropped out. Enter. It's thinking about it. Yeah, now it looks closed in. Hold on. Yeah, it looks closed in. I'll keep it the extra white up here. But yeah, that's it. That's yeah, because I need some breathing room. Everything is close to the edge. So, considering where I started, this looks really good. It looks really good. And I think I did a better job this time around with the Gaussian blur. I think the first portrait I had, it was too heavy. Slightly, maybe 1 or 2 points too heavy. So now that I know or have a better feel for the guide and everything that was done in the guide as far as color grading, that type thing, I have a better idea of what I can adjust. And then obviously I'm going to go ahead and save this. Is this going in the right folder? Yeah, because sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to tag it with purple and save. It's still thinking about it. So this is your indicator down here in the corner, the blue bar. Once it's done saving, the blue bar will go away. But right now it's stuck on 99%, so I'm just going to let it. There we go. Now this file is like 12.5 inches by 18.7 inches, so it's not really big, but it is 300 DPI. So yeah, when you do, especially if your computer can't handle a large file editing like this, just go with the raw file, whatever dimensions it comes out of the camera. However it comes out of the camera, just use those dimensions. But if you do have a beefed up computer, you can definitely enlarge it. But for me, I can enlarge it after all of these. So I keep it at the 12 by 18 size. And then if I want to make it bigger, I definitely do that. But I'm going to make one smaller now for social media and websites. Resample, going to change this to 72 DPI. Sorry about that, you guys. Hold on. All right. 72 res. And then I'm going to turn the resample back on. So yeah, turn the resample off, change this from 300 to 72, turn the resample back on. And then I'm going to change this to pixels. I'm going to go 2100. It's pretty standard. Resamples on auto. And there we go. And then save this as a copy, JPEG. Turn the tab to yellow. And then I usually tag it with SM, which is small, stands for small. There we go. Save it. And make sure the quality is all the way up at maximum on 12. I really don't mess with the formatting options, so it stays on standard baseline. And there we go. And then up here, I'll go back to the large file. There we go. And close. Save changes, no. Okay. Because the only changes I made was making the file smaller, and I don't want that to stay in Photoshop. These are some more additions. I don't know what they're doing. Oh, isolating elements. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of new effects for sure. Like a bunch. It's just figuring out, what you want to do. What you want to do in the software. So, okay, so I'll go ahead and quit Photoshop. Photoshop uses up a lot of memory. So yeah, you have to be really, really careful with that. Well, I do, because I only have, I think, 8 gigabytes of memory on here on my computer. So, okay, so this is the raw file, and I can move my camera back. This is the raw file. This is the finished JPEG. Turn it to yellow. There we go. So yeah, that's, that's where we are. Yeah, so this is, I did some adjustments on this first one, but not very much. And then this is the finished one. So yeah, I'm really happy with that one. All right, so if you guys have any questions about this, and then go ahead and give a like to this video that I use as my guide. And obviously there's more. There's more, but out of all of them that I've watched so far, this is the one that I usually come back to. And it's still very effective. So thank you to Artifact Hafitz. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name, but yes, it's very good. Very good guide to use. And I'm not that familiar with color grading, but as I'm going through these guides and learning new things, I'm getting used to how these adjustments work, and why you want to use certain adjustments, together. So, yeah. Again, if you guys have any questions about anything, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Everybody, take care.